Hello, my name's Lance with Autobiography Writing Secrets, and this is episode number 2. It's the day after Christmas. Yes, I recorded my first episode on Christmas Day because, as I had talked about in that episode, I heard a couple of people who had deaths, and they are not able to have their own autobiography written now because they're dead. And that just really punched me in the gut and said, look, I just told myself, look, I need to get this out there to you guys, because if you don't get your autobiography written, like Dax Tejero, he was one of them. He's only 37 years old. And so you never know how your life is going to end and when. Apparently he had a heart attack. He's married with a couple of young children. Since I'm a father myself with 2 children, it really hit home. So anyway, I just wanted to get this out there so people can get started on their autobiography right away and give you a structured way of looking at it. So like everyone else, you look online probably to get started in your autobiography, or maybe you buy one of those books that says, hey, the story of my life, and it has 200 questions, there's a book out there, I can't remember who actually wrote it, but they have a book of nearly 200 questions, but they're pretty general. And I don't really think it goes into much depth, or as much depth as it probably could. So what I'm about to show you today will be much more in depth, and in fact, it has over 2,400 questions. So, but let's get started so you know how we got there. So when I first started, I just started writing, and I wrote about 80 pages, and then I was like, man, this is crazy. I'm not even done with my chronological life up until the age of 20. I wasn't even done yet. So I was like, okay, after 2 weeks, I stepped away from it just to relax my mind for a bit. And then I came back and I was so lost. I had no idea. Like, I had to read over everything that I already wrote just to make sure I wasn't rewriting something. And it wasn't very organized. And if you've tried to write your own autobiography, you probably can understand what that means. So I got back online and I just started looking at like all the different ways that you can look at someone's life. And one of the ways was, I thought, well, maybe I can just take from the ages of 0 to 10, 10 to 20, going all the way up until like 100, and I can write something that's structured that way. But then I was like, I don't know if that's really the right way to look at it, because that just becomes too mathematical in my mind. You could do it that way, and there's nothing wrong with it if that's the way you wanted to do it, and maybe you've already written your autobiography and that's how you did structure it. But I went back and I found a gentleman by the name of Mike Bundrant, and he's a psychotherapist. He's not retired, but he synthesized what Maslow had talked about and what another gentleman, Kohlberg, had talked about, and he put basically together the 6 phases of human life. And the first one is dependency, and it's about how do you survive, and he considered that the first human development level, number 1, and those covers from the ages of like 0 to 19. And when I looked at his age structure, I was like, okay, this is probably going to work. So the second one was the human development level number 2. It is, for those who are listening on the podcast, I'm going through a list here, but you can't see it unless you watch the YouTube version. So number 2 is personal power. How do I establish myself in this world? So you're in your early 20s, and it's from age of 20 to 30, and you finish your university usually, if you did go, or trade school, or you started working a job, and you start to feel passionate about something, hopefully by that time. So you're trying to establish, like, probably paying rent or buying your first house, maybe your first car, and you get your first job, and you're really trying to establish yourself and get started. So the next one is level number 3, age 35, or age 30 to 35. And that's where you're trying to figure out where you fit in. That's your belonging in life. Okay, number 4 is you have much more deep self-awareness. Like you're asking the question, what is important to you? And that would be the human development level number 4 from the ages of 35 to 45. And then level 5, the human development level 5, from the age of 45 to 65, this is your life mission. What is my purpose? And if you're watching this and you want to write your autobiography because you're asking that question, this is perfect, because I feel like I'm 46 now, and I decided that my father now had to come live with me because he had a stroke, and I had to like reevaluate my life because I had another company that I had started and I was about to exit, and then we had some issues with the investors, and so I had to do something else. And I had to ask myself, what is my purpose? What is my mission? Now that I'm taking care of my father, what else can I do that incorporates what my life looks like right now? My children are grown for the most part. One of them's in university, and the other one he is still in high school, and I can't sit still, so I wanted to do something. And so I had asked this question, what is my purpose? So this is where I am personally in my life, and maybe you are too. And the last one, and if you're watching this and you're over the age of 65, this is where you probably feel like you accept yourself for who you are finally, and you just want to figure out a way to give back. You've lived an entire life of learning, and you gained all this life experience, and you realize, wow, I'm going to throw this all away upon my death. So if you're thinking like that and you're here to write this autobiography, I'll show you how to get started right now. So number 1 is the dependency, how do I survive? And if you're trying to figure out how to start, I come up with something like this. This is from the age of 0 to 19. So I come up with this, and I use the program called Coggle.it. You can do the same thing, or I'll give you access to this, and I'll put a link if you're watching this on YouTube. I can put a link to this, but if you want to know more and how you can get the entire thing, you can send me a message on Twitter. So what I'm doing right now, for those just listening, I have on my computer screen, in the middle of it has the first step of the autobiography, and that's the human development phase 1 or level 1, and it's from the ages of 0 to 19. And so I click on it and it expands out. It has 4 sides. It's like a little rectangle, and it spider webs out. So now there's 40 topics that we can discuss from the ages of 0 to 19. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on some of these topics, and it's going to have something really cool here. I wish I had this when I originally started. It would have been such a huge help to me. So the first one, these can be chapters. So the first one is family structure and relationships. So if I click on it, the little plus sign, questions come up. And in this case, family structure and relationship there's 10 questions. This is just to get you started. Now, obviously, once you see these questions, you can ask more questions. But for example, what was your family structure like when you were growing up? And question number 2, how did you get along with your siblings when you were younger? Did you have any memorable experiences or stories with them? Now, this could take you down a rabbit hole of lots more stories, and that's perfect. That's exactly what you want for this. So if you're recording yourself doing this, you can ask the question that you want, and then you can answer it, and then you can go back after the recording and you can get it transcribed. So I'll just show you a bit more here. These could be chapters again. The second one is birth and early childhood memories. So I click on this and more questions pops up. For example, what was your birth like? Did you have any memories of it, or have you heard any stories about it from your parents and family members? Obviously, when it's asking a question, what was your birth like? That isn't like you remembering, obviously, but it's like, what did your parents tell you about it, or whoever was there that was there? Could have even been a midwife or something. But what have you been told about your birth? Was it difficult? Was it most amazing thing ever? And maybe you were the first child and your mom was so excited, and so, but maybe there was other circumstances depending where you came from in the world. It could be much different. All right, number 3. I'm just going to go over a few of these just so you get an idea what it sounds like. So for those of you listening, we're going to number 3 here on the spider web. Clicking on one of the ends of the leg in the spider web, if you can imagine that as a listener. So number 3 here, favorite toys and activities as a child. So click on it here and get 10 more questions. What was your favorite toys? What were your favorite toys or games as a child? So there you go. That opens up a whole bunch of memories. Just thinking about that question. I know for me, I think of like board games, my Tonka toys, my little red wagon I had, my BB guns that I had. I mean, there's so many things that I like. The tree house, and I built the tree house myself because I love books, and I was reading a book, and one day I decided to follow the instructions in the book, and that's how I built my own tree house, with the help of my grandfather, of course. Do you have any favorite TV shows, movies, or books as a child? Do you have any memorable experiences or stories involving these types of media? So like yesterday was Christmas, and maybe you had your favorite movies when you were growing up, or maybe you didn't have a television at all growing up. Maybe you had some other form of entertainment, depending on how old you are and you're watching this. But when you think of these questions, it brings back so many memories. Like, I didn't really have a television in the house when I was younger. I was always outside playing and going to the neighbors. My friend Billy, he had a television, so I'd go play Atari at his house. That was some of the things that I did. So, all right, so let's go down to the next tip of the spider leg and click and see what's here. So this next one is first school experiences. So here, there are actually 20 questions, and you can just kind of go down the list here. What was your first day in school like? Did you have any memories or stories from this experience? For example, my first day of school, just to give you an example, I don't remember it, but my mom said it was the cutest thing ever because I apparently had, there's a girl I liked. It was my first day of kindergarten, and I was holding hands with her, and we were walking, and she thought it was the cutest thing ever. And I was like, I don't remember, but cool. So it's just a funny story that I remember that I was told. How old were you when you started school? There you go. Depending on where you are in the world when you're seeing this, it can vary from age to age. What was your school like? Do you have any memories, stories about the building, the classrooms, or the playground? Now, if you think about that question, what kind of memories comes up in your mind? I can remember like the classroom, and I remember the teacher had the ABCs all around the classroom, and my favorite one was H because it was like Mr. Hare, and that was I could probably tell a bunch of little stories about that. Kindergarten was one of my first memories, I think, especially in school. So, all right, so let me do a few more here, then I'll zoom out on the spider web and you can kind of see what it looks like. So on your first age group from 0 to 19, there are 40 subjects, and there's going to be over 400 questions that you can have access to. So if you're interested, go ahead and send me a message on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, and I will send you a link to this so you can actually use it to get started. Once I'm finished with the entire 6 steps, I'm going to put this into an actual course, and then I'm going to offer this course to, like the full course, showing you how to use this, showing you how to format your autobiography and show you how to publish it, and a few other things along the way that make it, that when I was using it, it was really difficult to try to figure out. It was really challenging, but the way it's done now is you can get it done in 2 weeks. So if you're interested in writing your autobiography in 2 weeks, now you can see how you start. You have all these questions and you just go through and answer them. And that's how you get your autobiography done really quickly, because you have some structure. I wish I had this when I started, because I did not. So, all right, let me zoom out here and show you what this spider looks like. Okay, so each one of these legs are going to have a bunch of questions, 10, 20, up to 30 questions, depending on the topic. It might even have up to 40 questions. So you're going to have a minimum of 40 topics, 10 questions per topic minimum. As you can see, there's already some here that have more than 10. And that's going to prompt you to stay very focused on step by step on getting your autobiography written. So, all right, that's all I have for today. And tomorrow we're going to do part 2, human development level 2. And then we'll just keep doing that until we're done with that part. And then we'll continue on with formatting. So, all right, I'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.